So let's see who's here. Please, so I see Ricardo Rodriguez from Mexico. Very nice, very good. So it looks like the system is working. Dalit from Israel, Abdullah from Egypt. Very nice, very nice. So good, good. We have quite a few people. Okay, so it seems like you can hear me. All right, so different countries, different people. Very good. So I can see you here, guys. Everything is working. All right, a lot of things to discuss today. So let me start with the usual updates. Then we would like to talk a little bit about platforms or tools or opportunities for the students to communicate with one another. So I'll talk about that. And then I would like to actually let less time to myself to talk about updates and what's going on, and leave more time for you to ask questions. The last few weeks, we always ran out of time, and there were many questions that I didn't have the time to answer. So hopefully we'll have more time today. So quick updates first. So we have, as always, 4 different groups of people participating in XCulture at this time. So first and foremost, we have the university students. At this time, the early track is in progress, and the late track will start in a few weeks. So the early track has approximately 1,400 students from approximately 40 universities or so, with about 40 professors or so. And so they were placed on teams 3 weeks ago. We have had some late comers, and those are the students whose semester starts a little later. And so they were not able to be placed on teams on August the 26th when the teams were formed, and instead were placed a little bit later. But as of now, it seems like everybody who had to be placed on teams has been placed on teams. And most teams have 5 or 6 team members, usually with 2 students from either Colombia or from the United States. We just have more participants from there. And then 3 or 4 students from other countries. So we have a few teams that are bigger, 6 or 7 people. And I think we have a few teams that have only 4 people. They just decided to stay small, which is perfectly fine. And so last week, the teams had to choose their clients. And so this week, we are asking them to submit their individual answers to all of the challenge questions. And let me talk about those 2 issues separately. So first, selection of the clients. Let me see if I can show you the distribution actually here. So let me see if I have a nice graph that shows, just one second. Yeah, so here is the statistics. So let me share the screen. One thing that I'm very happy about is, so hopefully you can see my screen, and let me enlarge the numbers. One thing that I'm very happy about is that we have a pretty balanced distribution of teams per company. So this is the distribution as of a week ago. So as you know, the teams are allowed to choose any client they want. And so in the early track, we have 7 companies to choose from. We will add 2, maybe 3 more for the late track and for the academy track. And the reason we have fewer now is because we actually try to keep it smaller. So we would like to keep it more like 5 companies, 6 companies. But very interesting companies keep coming in, and so we just couldn't say no, they were interesting, so we added more. And now since the early track had started, so we had even more companies come to us with interest and ideas. And so I just couldn't say no. They're great, interesting companies, and so we decided to let them participate in the late track. Obviously, the trade-off here is that the more companies we have, the more time, the more demands it imposes, requires of me. Let me just make sure that the recording is going on. But in any case, yeah. And so we are trying to keep fewer companies with more teams per company and deeper, more frequent webinars. But then again, at the same time, students like variety, and some interesting companies come along. So we may increase it up to 10 in the late track. And so what I like about this distribution, I mean, yes, obviously Lake Louise, Calgary International Airport have like 40 or 50 teams working on their challenge. Whereas, for example, Project 28 or XCulture Kids have only 10, which is, still 5-1. But the good news here is that there is no company that cannibalized half of the teams, and every company has some teams. We've had in the past situations where one company would get like 60% of all teams. And that's obviously a problem. In the early track, we have fewer participants. We have only about 250 teams. And as you can see, the distribution, or 200 teams or something like that. And the distribution is actually pretty even, and everybody got some teams. Now, for the late track, as I said, the teams will be able to choose any company they want. The teams will also have a little bit more companies to choose from. But what I would recommend is maybe paying a closer attention to companies that are not as popular in the early track. And the reason for that is that there is always a probability that the most popular companies from the early track will be the most popular companies in the late track. And so if you choose, for example, Lake Louise Ski Resort or Calgary Airport, great companies. We visited them just 2 months ago in July in Canada, in Calgary. We literally visited physically Lake Louise Ski Resort. We had the airport as the client. Great companies, no question. But if you choose them, you will be competing sort of against a larger number of teams. And so winning in that category will be a little bit harder. So we sort of encourage you to go for the underdogs, for the teams or companies that are not as popular, which is good for you, but also good for them. So anyway, that's where we stand with the companies. And there is one more thing that I need to say about that. We had a company called Oasis Rocket that was scheduled to participate in the early track. I had to make the decision to exclude them for now. They will probably come to the late track, but we decided not to include them in the early track. And the reason for that is they're now going through some rounds of fundraising. They're quite busy building their product. And I had a feeling that they would not be able to devote the necessary attention to the students, the necessary time to the students. And I felt that if we allow them to participate, they may not be as responsive as we would like a company to be. So we keep working with them. We're actually helping them raise some funds for their business. So we're in very good relationships with the company. So if the situation improves, if it looks like they have a little bit more time, maybe we will allow them to participate in the late track. And just to close this topic, if you do know some good, interesting companies with interesting products that you think that they can benefit from participating in the XCulture competition, let me know. Send me an email. No, it's very unlikely that we will be able to allow them to participate this semester. But next semester, we will be selecting a whole new list of companies, and that gives us enough time to prepare. So if you maybe work for a company or know a company, or your parents maybe work for a company that would like to use thousands of hours of our students all around the world, let us know. The companies get a lot of benefits from you guys, just like you learn from them, just like you practice your business skills. The companies get a lot of stuff from you. So they get your brilliant ideas, they get your market research, they get your maybe business leads sometimes if you find potential customers, distributors. So essentially they have, hundreds, thousands of employees essentially for free. So it's a great, great opportunity. Public relations, a very good opportunity here. So if you think there is a company that could benefit from the help of the thousands of XCulture students, do let us know. We'll schedule a call with them. We'll see what they do, how interested they are. And if they have an interesting product and they are interested as a company, we will allow them to participate in this competition. So that's the early track. So now next task would be for them to submit individual answers to all of the challenge questions. And let me explain to you why we do it, because if you are in the late track, you will be doing the same thing anyway. So when we form teams, many teams are trying to kind of minimize the time and the effort by separating the workload by question. And they would say, for example, Dalit, you will work on the market analysis, and then Santana, you will work on the market entry strategy. Ricardo, you would work on marketing section, and then Seneca, you will work on the HR strategy, and Abdullah, your job will be to work on the logistics. And you separate the workload, you go your ways, you almost don't communicate for the whole semester, in hope that at the end of the semester, Dalit, Santana, Seneca, Abdullah, Ricardo will do their work, and you will copy and paste each individual writing section into one report, and you'll have one beautiful report. And this is a very, very bad idea to divide the workload like that. two problems happen when you do it like this. Problem one, there is always a chance that one of those team members will not be able or will not do a good job with his or her section. There are all kinds of reasons for that. Maybe the person got busy at school, at work, got sick, who knows, broke up with a boyfriend, girlfriend, and could not concentrate. And you will not know about that until the last minute. So if you wait for someone to just give you a nice, beautiful section of the report, and then you will just copy and paste it into one big document, something will go wrong. At least one team member will not deliver. Not because they're students or it's XCulture or something. It happens every time. In any team, even when you work with top companies, there is always someone who doesn't do a very good job. Moreover, everybody writes in a different style. And so again, if you don't check work of each other, there is a good chance that you will have all 4, 5, 6 sections of the report, but they will be poorly written. So they will just not fit together. They will be very different. It will not feel like a coherent document. It will feel like, like several separate documents. Another, and that's even a bigger problem, is that the value of teamwork comes from the exchange of ideas, right? So when we work together, you say something that gives me an idea that I wouldn't have otherwise. I can say something that gives you an idea that you wouldn't have otherwise. So if you ask me to do my work alone, let's say I'm responsible for the marketing section of the report, I may be very smart. I can try very hard. I can write a good section, but I always would write an even better report, better section when I had, or if I had your ideas. And so what we want you to do, or not we want you to do, it would be wise for you to do, is exchange ideas, try to help each other. And I'm not talking here about you have to write it together. I'm talking about at least you have to share your initial thoughts. It can be still somebody on your team who actually writes that section, but it's extremely important that the other team members at least voice their ideas so that that team member has a little bit more to start with, a little bit more to build upon, a little bit more to sort of work with. Likewise, once the person starts working on the section, you would like to sort of pay attention what he or she is doing, maybe sometimes provide some constructive criticism, maybe sometimes add additional ideas. And it's very important because that's how you grow. So that's how the final product can be better than what you can do individually. Like, this is how well I can do alone. This is how well you can do alone. But if we work together, you tell me something that I didn't know, and so all of a sudden my performance is like this. I look at your work, I see a problem, I correct it. I see a deficiency, I give you a new idea, and your work becomes like this. And so by exchanging ideas, instead of being a collection of reports that are this quality, we have a collection that is this quality. And so to promote that collaboration, what we do is, as the first deadline, as the first real task deadline, we ask every team member to try to develop some ideas, some thoughts on every single question of the report. So I, for example, am a member of a team of 6, and we have to work on marketing, HR, entry mode, logistics, finance, whatever else. Even if I will be responsible later on for one of those sections, let's say marketing, in the beginning, the requirement is that I think about all 6 or 7 questions. So how would I ship this product? How would I hire people in that country? Would I do it alone in that country, or maybe some sort of a joint venture or partnership? And so I just jot down my initial ideas, I submit them. But now that I've committed to those ideas, next time we have a discussion, I'll have something to say. Let's say, for example, Ricardo will be working on logistics. Even though my section is marketing, I thought about logistics. I wrote my answers for that first deadline. So I'll say, hey, Ricardo, you know what? I thought about that. Maybe we should, I don't know, ship the product by the sea. It's cheaper. It's a little longer, but it's not a problem. It's much cheaper. Did you think about that? Hey, Dalit, you're working on HR and you want to, develop a strategy for hiring people. Did you think that, for example, in that country, they have this platform where people pay their ads? I did some research for my own part, and so I noticed, yeah, maybe you know it, maybe you don't. So here is my idea. And then I look at the work that Ricardo is doing, and like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and I say, hey, Ricardo, you know what? That's good work, but you know what? I was thinking about that. Maybe we should make some changes here. And so even though it's still Ricardo and Dalit who do their sections, and it's me who does my section, by having those initial ideas, by giving a thought to every question on the challenge, hopefully it will lead to a little bit more exchange of ideas, and as a result will raise the quality of the report higher, higher, higher. So that's what the teams are working on in the early track this week. And those of you who started in the late track, that will be your task after week 3. So first you get to know each other, then you select the company, and then individually you try to answer every single question. And then from that point on, each week you will be submitting the next section of the report. And even if it's written primarily by one of the team members, my hope is that you will be helping each other because you already thought about it individually. So that's the early track, nothing difficult there. Everything seems to be going well. We had 16 students out of 1,400 or so who got low peer evaluations last week, so a 2.0 or lower. So what we do in cases like this, we send a warning to those students. We basically reach out to them and say, hey, I see there is a problem. Would you like some help? And if your performance does not improve, we'll have to drop you from the project. But if you need help, let us know. And so that's about 1% of all participants. So it's not a big deal, not a problem. I suppose you always expect that about 1% of the people, probably more like 10, 20%. But, I guess at least, some students will not do well. Again, it's early in the project. Maybe somebody was busy and just now starting the project. Maybe somebody didn't quite know what's going on. So we'll see what's going on and we'll see how we can help. As per our rules, if somebody's peer evaluations are below 2.0, if the team is not happy with the person, first we send a warning and then try to help. But if the situation does not improve, if the person is not doing better, if the team continues being not happy with the person, we will exclude that person from the project. So again, those of you who are in the early track, if you see that your team has concerns about your performance, nothing to worry about, it's just something to do about. Reach out to the team, explain your situation. Maybe you were busy, maybe you were sick, maybe you were traveling. Tell them that, sorry guys, the first few weeks I just didn't know what to do, but I'm back, I'll work hard. They'll be happy to hear that, they will help you. And as I said, if there is some sort of a conflict or if you're confused, you're not sure what to do, we have coaches for that, they will help you. So that's the early track. Now, the coaches, so we have a group of coaches. We have, I believe we started with about 120 who were pre-selected for the program. And so now they're doing weekly training modules. And so this week they will be submitting the third training module. Again, it seems like most of them are doing pretty well. So as always, we have a few who never showed up. So they applied and then changed their mind or maybe got busy or who knows what. But most are doing very well. And so another weekend we will be selecting those. We're trying to get about 40 total out of 120. So about 30% best of the best who will then serve as coaches for the next generation of XCulture students. We also have about 12, I believe, what we call head coaches. So those are the people who completed the coaching program last semester, and now they're helping us run it, but also before or until the new generation of coaches get certified and become coaches. The head coaches from the last semester are helping us help students. So they're reading the comments, they're going through all of those records and trying to see what can be done to help XCulture students. So that's the early track, the coaches. Then obviously we have the academy students. So we have a total of a little over 1,000, I believe it's like 1,400 as well that we started with. And so again, they have to complete 4 weeks of theoretical training. As always, again, we have several groups. So we have many who are doing very, very well. So every week they get very good grades. They submit everything on time. Then we have some from whom we never heard about, before from. So they applied, or maybe parents applied on their behalf, or maybe they applied a long time ago. Maybe thought at that time it would be a good idea to participate, but then got busy at work, at school, and so decided that it's not the time. So, and then we have some in between. So some who did well on a few exams and maybe skipped one exam, or maybe didn't get a good grade on the exam. So in cases like that, we always assume that there was a technical problem or something temporary. So we give them a chance to do the test again. But if obviously the situation does not improve, we will kick them out from the program. Again, our goal is to select only the best of the best. And it's not that we want to have a smaller group. I mean, it doesn't really matter how big the group is. We just want only serious, dedicated students because they will be your team members. And you don't want to have a team member who misses deadlines, who cannot answer exam questions. So for us, it's much better to have a small group of really, really good students than to have a large group of students who are not participating well, who are not prepared, not skilled, not motivated, because that means that each of those students will spoil the experience for a large group of students. We don't want that. So most are doing very well, and I'm happy about that. You should be receiving your performance reviews every Tuesday. And so hopefully you're one of those who's, who receives wording such as congratulations, you're doing fine. Everything is good. And yeah, so as always, the next deadline, week 3 theory test is due on Sunday, tomorrow. And then it takes us a couple of days to grade them, to review them, to read them. And probably sometimes towards the end of the day on Tuesday, you will receive your grade, you will receive your feedback, and a link to your 4th and last theory test. So, and then, yeah, I guess sometime next week, we should be ready to start seeing or deciding who's going to stay in the program and who's not going to stay in the program. And so this way, those of you who stay in the program, you will probably start receiving your acceptance letters sometime next week. And so this way you can then proceed with the registrations, and yeah, we will be placing you on teams in a couple of weeks. So, and then finally we have the late track students. So we expect about 4,500 students from another 150 universities or so, and so about 40 countries. So their semester just has started for some, will be starting in the next few weeks for others. And so about half of them are MBA students and graduate master students. The other half are undergraduates. And so they will be placed on teams on October the 7th. Again, if any of you are in that group, you should have received your welcome letters already. You should have access to the training materials already. And yeah, you have in that welcome letter the link to your readiness test. Just click on that link, take it whenever you're ready. As long as you do it by October the 6th, on October the 7th, you will be placed on a team, receive your team member names, and we'll be ready to start the project. So that's basically where we stand at this time. There is one more issue that I would like to discuss, and then I will open up the questions. So many students from the academy, as well as actually the university students, are asking us for names and contacts of the students from their own country. And as you know, we have universities in about 40 countries, and the academy students, at least the applications, came from about 104 or 5 countries. So we'll see how many will stay, but it's a large number. And so we got a lot of emails from students who would say, hey, can I get maybe the names of other students from my country? I would like to hang out with them. And we welcome that. It would be wonderful. We would like the students to get to know each other. We would like the parents to get to know each other, maybe form a little community. Maybe you can do some other things together. We are not sure how to do it right, in a sense that I'm not sure if it would be ethical to share your contacts just like that. For the privacy concerns issues, maybe you don't want your name or contacts to be shared. We always take these things very seriously and usually share the names and contacts only of the people from the same team. But to allow you, to communicate with one another, find one another, communicate with one another, we think it may be a good idea to create like a closed Facebook group. And if you would like to communicate with other XCulture students, be it in different countries or in your own country, or maybe even in your own city. So we have many cities where many people applied independently. They don't know each other, but probably would like to get to know each other. So you can join that closed group, post your name, contacts if you want, or, and so this way you can hook up with our other students. So we'll see, maybe maybe next week I will include a question asking you if you would like to share your address and name or email address with the rest of the crowd. And if you're okay, maybe we'll even post the open list so that you can find each other with people from your country. So we'll see what we want to do about that. But one thing we would like to do is to create this closed Facebook group. And so our administrator, Yev Frankiv, I think already created that group. And so what we'll probably do is just include the link to the group in the email that will go out next week. And so this way you can join the group, and then you can get to know all participants, but potentially maybe find partners from your own town, country. Maybe you can get together, or maybe you will be traveling, and wherever you go, there is a good chance there is an XCulture community there. So this way you will be able to reach out to them in advance. Maybe meet for a cup of coffee, or just exchange some ideas. And, if you're parents, maybe, talk about how, or other programs for your kids, exchange experiences, maybe college application strategies, and things like that. All right, so that's all I had to say at this time. So now let's go to your questions. And I see we have already a few questions in here in the comments, as well as if you would like to go ahead and talk to me, raise your hand, and I will add you to the discussion and we'll talk. So now give me a minute to read the questions. So there is a very, very interesting question from Deborah. So if I wanted to start an XCulture club here in Ivory Coast, am I allowed to? Yes, Deborah, it's a wonderful idea. We haven't really done it on a large scale. So we know that in some countries we have a lot of motivated participants who sort of proactively created clubs like that. But I would fully support the idea of creating an XCulture club in your town. So Deborah, yes, first, you're definitely allowed, and I would even say encouraged to do so. Why not? So if you would like me to help you in any way, maybe send you some printed materials that you can maybe distribute to potentially interested partners, or maybe if you would like me to help you, I don't know, like recruit interesting speakers, maybe you can have a webinar specifically for your participants, or maybe you will recruit some speakers in your location, but you would like to stream it to the whole world, to all 100 and whatever number of countries participating in XCulture. We can do that as well, so if you have a club. So XCulture International Business Club, it would be a very, very good idea. So Deborah, yes, maybe send me an email. We can brainstorm it together, see what the best way to do it. And definitely it's a good idea. We haven't really done it much, as I said, so I'm not sure what the format would look like, But again, let's try. Maybe, you will try something that works and others will copy your model. And maybe somebody else will try to create an XCulture club in a different country or different city, and they will do things differently and it will work well. Maybe you can borrow ideas from them. So I definitely like this idea. We haven't tried it in the past, but I guess why not? So if you have questions, raise your hand, and meanwhile, I'll go through the typed questions. So give me a few minutes here. How can we get financial information from Culturally? There is nothing available online. Very good question. So let's talk about that. First, you should understand that some information may not be available, period. So financial information and things like that, it's in many cases proprietary information. It's not something companies would like to share. Like if you're in a business, would you put online your financial statements? I don't think so. I mean, that's not something that, or likewise your own financial information, like how much you make as a person. So some of these data may not be available, period. So even when you ask, the company may not be comfortable sharing that information, which is normal and justifiable and probably wise. Now, specifically Culturally, I don't know what's available on the website, but again, financial information normally is not available for any company, unless it's a publicly traded company and the law requires that they disclose that information. And even then, it's not something that would be posted on the website. It would be something that you may request as a stakeholder, as a shareholder, but not necessarily something that would be just publicly posted on the website. Now, in cases when you need more information about the company, as always, did you read the challenge instructions? What does it say there? So you send a question to academy@xculture.org or admin@xculture.org. Either one is fine. And we will then forward that question to the company itself. So if it's something they can answer, they will answer. We will add that question to the frequently asked questions, and you will see the answer there. And then if anybody else needs the same answers or the same information, we will have that and we will share it. So I kind of suspect that they will not share financial information. Again, it tends to be kind of secret. At least I know most companies wouldn't share that, but let's try. So send that question to admin. We will discuss, we will forward that information to the company, see what they say. Maybe they will give you some data and maybe not everything else. Let's see what happens. But this applies, as I said, not only to Culturally. So in most of the cases, most of the companies will give you what you need, sometimes maybe to you only with the promise that you will not share it publicly. But as I said, some of the figures, some of the numbers sometimes can be simply posed. So we have here Dana and Nada, or Nada, I hope I pronounced your names correctly. So if you guys want to go ahead with your questions, unmute your microphones. And meanwhile, I will read what other questions came here in the Q&A window. Is it Dana or Donna?
Yes, it's Dana.
Dana, go ahead, please. What's your question?
Pleasure to meet you. I'm from Jamaica.
Jamaica, very nice.
Yes, and
Were
I'm
you
from.
affected by this hurricane last week at all?
No, no, that was Bahamas.
Bahamas, so that's,
Not at all.
you know, even from North Carolina, that region kind of looks like, okay, the Caribbean, you know, like
Uh,
one coherent thing. But yeah, it's a huge area, obviously, so good for you. All right, okay, so what's your question, Dana?
Okay, my question is simple for the students who will be selected next year to go to the symposium. Is it a case where they have to pay for their travel expenses, or will they be sponsored?
That's a very good question, and so I'll take a few minutes to answer it because it's a little bit more than just, you know, a couple of words. So one, those who don't know what the symposium is, so twice a year we organize an XCulture Symposium, a big one in the summer, usually with 150 students and then 50 professors and coaches, and a smaller one in the fall, usually in the United States, for about 40, 50 students and then about 40, 50 professors. So the one that we do in the summer, that one is a self-standing event. It's XCulture only for the whole week, and we do it on our own. And so this way we can keep the group larger. And one of the reasons we have fewer professors attending that symposium is because it's only XCulture. The one in the fall, so this year it will be in 3 weeks in Texas, in San Antonio. That one is part of the Academy of International Business Conference. And because many XCulture professors are members of the Academy of International Business, they're going to that conference anyway. And so in many cases, we have more professors than students because we go there anyway to present our work, research, and then bring the students along. And so this way, this year we have, as I said, San Antonio, Texas in 3 weeks in October, and then 4 weeks, I believe, actually. And then the next big one will be in Singapore in July of next year. So the last symposia the big ones were in Calgary, Canada, July of this year, 2 months ago. Before that, we had a big one in Italy, in Macerata, a summer before, and before it was in Miami, here in the United States, again, 2 years ago. And the small ones we've had all around the United States, Nashville last year, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Miami, so all those cities. Now, when it comes to attendance, so first, who gets invited, and second, who pays for it? The invitations will go out to the best students who participated in XCulture. And the best, you know, how do you define the best? So we sort of have several criteria. We usually automatically invite members of the winning teams. So we would have, like, let's say we have 10 companies. So for each company, we usually select 3 best teams. And the reason we don't have one winning team, but there will be literally 3 for each company, is because in many cases, it's impossible to say that this is the best team. I mean, when you look at the 1,000 reports, I mean, many of them, like dozens of them, will be really, really, really good. And so it's not something that, how should I put it? It's not something that, you know, you can say 1 + 1 = 2. No, I mean, you have like 3, 4 really good reports. I mean, everything is perfect. Different ideas, but each one is great in their own way. And so unless the company tells us that, you know, like this one is definitely a winner, usually what we do, we try to select 2 or even 3 sort of winning teams for each category. You know, let's say culturally was selected this time by about 40 teams already, and there will be in the late track, there will be probably another 100 or 200. So there will be, let's say, 200 teams total. So of those 200 teams, as I said, about 100 will be fine. Another 20 will be good. But then another 10, 20, 30 will be like really, really, really good. And so from those, we will select probably about 3 teams. So 15 to 20 people who will be on those teams as members. So they get invited automatically. For the rest of the group, we look at all kinds of performance records, your peer evaluations, the quality of your work in general, your timeliness from the exams that you took all the way, you know, every week what you do. And usually we would invite somewhere between top 10 to top 20%. So it's still a sizable number of people who get invited. And so the reason we invite a little bit more, so if you, let's say, have 5,000 participants, so if you invite top 10%, that's like 500 people, right? But the reason for that is because all of them deserve to be there. We don't want to exclude anyone. And second, not everyone who is invited is able to attend. For some people, you know, maybe the schedule problems are there, you know, maybe you do something else that summer, maybe you have, I don't know, summer school, maybe you have summer camp, maybe you travel. All kinds of reasons. Sometimes people don't get a visa. You know, I'm not sure how strict Singapore is, but with the United States, we actually have a lot of people who didn't get the visa. And so we would like them to come, but, you know, they just didn't get the US visa. So as long as you do reasonably well, and by reasonably well, I mean, you know, like if you're top 10, 20%, which again is not that difficult. You just have to do better than the other 5 people, you know, like top 1 out of 5, so it's reasonable. You will get an invitation. Now, when it comes to paying, so the answer is we don't pay for you, but there is good news. So XCulture is a nonprofit, as you know, and we don't have a big grant. As you know, we charge very modest participation fees. So for the university students, it's $250 per whole class. If your school can pay, most schools have no problems paying for participation, but some can't. In some countries, even $250 for a university is a lot of money, or some may have restrictions on payment. For the kids and the professionals, it's even less than that. So it's something like, I don't remember what the fees are, but it's like a few $1,000s, like $10 a month or something like that. So as you can imagine, that amount of money is not even enough to pay for the help to run the program, let alone to pay the travel stipends. But what we do with the travel stipends is the following. So first of all, we do have, or do offer some travel stipends from our own budget. So whatever money we haven't used up for, you know, running the program, we usually spend on travel. So on travel stipends for professors, teachers, students. But second, what we do is we allow you to give us the names of your potential sponsors, and we will write them personal recommendation letters, sponsorship letters, asking them to support you. And so in the past, like for example, in Canada, in Italy, I don't think we had a single student who was paying on his or her own the entire amount. So most students would get some money from their schools, universities, some get money from local companies. We had a few students who literally went to the mayors of their cities and said, hey, I've been selected to this prestigious event. Would you sponsor me? And obviously we write letters each time. So we would say, for example, Dana Jones here was selected to attend the symposium in Singapore. It's a very unique opportunity. For 1 week, she will meet people from 100 countries. She will attend, you know, visit all kinds of companies, meet with the, I don't know, city officials, local entrepreneurs. And so if she takes it to a couple of companies and maybe, as I said, the city mayor, maybe to her school principal, in most cases, they actually respond very well. And as I said, not always students can get all the support from one place. Sometimes, you know, the city says, all right, we'll give you $500 for the air ticket. And then the school says, it's such a good thing for you, you know, here's another $500 maybe to pay the registration fee. And then somebody, you know, gives you, but somehow in the end, pretty much everybody was able to get some funding and hardly anyone had to pay out of their own pocket. Maybe some people who really had a lot of, you know, like kind of rich parents, they can pay. So the short answer is we will not pay for your travel. We may give you some stipend, you know, if you're one of a very, very few. And usually we give our own money only to the students who have to travel far and who come from a very, you know, like poor country. But as I said, we will help you secure funding from other sources. We also had students who had GoFundMe campaigns, you know, like basically online. And so we're able to raise some funds that way. And obviously, again, we try to promote those students. So we put the link on our website. And sometimes even random strangers would, you know, like give, this one gives $10, that one gives $20. So in many cases, that allows you to raise some money. So chances are that even though we will not be able to pay for your travel per se, chances are that with our help, you will be able to raise the necessary funds, even if you cannot cover it on your own. So therefore, don't worry too much about the money at this time. So let's see how things go, focus on good performance. When the time comes, I think we should be able to help you raise the necessary funds. As I said, in my history, talking to the students, it seems like pretty much everybody would be getting some funding from somewhere. Some from us, some from Academy of International Business, some from sponsors, your school, your parents' work, jobs. So we'll see how things go. That's basically, you know, and the way we, by the way, charge, so there is a participation fee. And so the way we do it, literally, we just calculate all of the expenses, you know, how much it will cost us to rent the facilities, to provide the housing, to, you know, cover the transportation, the food, the insurance, and we just divide it by the number of participants. And so obviously, as I said, all these professors who will be going there, they do it essentially for free. But at the same time, you know, and that's why there is a participation registration fee. But at the same time, as I said, somehow in the end, it works pretty well that everybody gets something from somewhere, and we will help you with that. So long answer to a simple question, but you know, it's Nada or Nada, I see you are here. If you want to go ahead with your question. Dana, do you have any other questions? Is that all you want?
Oh, only one. Do you know if I'm the only participant from Jamaica?
While I'm waiting for the others to start, I can check. So let me take here. So Jamaica. I can check here. So we have Natalia Burton. Actually, I can tell you, let me see here. So I'll share them. Let's see if I can quickly share my screen with you and show you the actual numbers. So I just ran a simple pivot table here, and when you go by country, you can see, how it's distributed. So when we go to Jamaica, I hope it's visible enough. So let me do like this. Jamaica, where's Jamaica? Yeah. Actually, we have 110 from Jamaica. So we have a large group. I didn't even know that. Huh. Actually, it seems like it's one of the most represented countries.
Yeah, I realize that.
You know that? Actually, let me do this here. So I know that we have a total of 113 countries. Oh, that's with the header, so it's, yeah, because it should be like 110. Let me see, why is it so many? Yeah, because we have one empty. So if you just go by the country, the total is 110. Oh, I thought it was 105. 110 countries, all right.
110.
So 1,361 people so far selected to be in the program. And so if I do this, we will be able to see which are the most represented. So we have only one, for example, from Afghanistan, only one from Anguilla. I bet most of you don't even know what continent is that on.
That's
so
in the Caribbean.
Only one from Austria. But then, for example, 46 from Bangladesh, 10 from Barbados, so 19 from Bulgaria, so 50 from Egypt. So Abdullah, you are in a good company, and there is a good chance we have more in your city, so maybe you guys want to get together. 54 from Ghana, again, if you have anyone there. India is the most represented country. Well, it's a huge country, 1 billion people, obviously. Somehow we don't have many from China, only 3, but I think one of the reasons is in China, they don't really use Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and those are the channels we used to the project. And I think they just simply don't know. So India does, and so obviously, yeah. But Jamaica is, it looks like it's—
That's a large contingent.
Yeah, so maybe you should create some sort of like an XCulture club. It's not a huge country. I assume most of you would be within, like reasonable distance. So maybe you can get together. Yeah, I think
I'll think about it.
Kenya has 38, Kazakhstan has 16, Pakistan 70, Philippines. Yeah, so we have a bunch of, South Africa is very well represented. Trinidad and Tobago, again, not quite Jamaica, but sort of in that region. So
58.
Oh, Ukraine has 41, but I think Ukraine has 41 because we have 2 schools participating from Ukraine. And I think each of those schools comes like with 15 students or so, and then some individual participants. Yeah. All right, so so we'll send you, I don't know how to share this. I'm not sure if it would be ethical to share all 110 emails with everybody, but maybe at the very least we will try to, put you in touch somehow so you can get to know other participants. And these are, by the way, that's only the kids and professionals. So that's not the university students, because we do have a couple of universities as well, but those are older, so that's a whole different story. Although, again, maybe you will be applying to those universities. Maybe we should put you in touch with that professor, with those students. So we have to do something about it, because obviously there is a lot of interest in getting to know each other.
A pleasure to meet you, Dr. Charas. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Jemana and Nada, you guys had questions? Go ahead, please.
Hey, I want to ask when we are going to be on teams. Like, when are you going to form us and give us the names of the teams in the junior project?
October the 7th. So in 4 weeks from now, essentially. Actually less than that, so it's, or 4, yeah, something like 4 weeks. In terms of timing, in fact, again, let me share that with you, so in case you have those questions in the future. So if you go to the resource page, so xculture.org, 2019-3, that's for the academy. And then the same information is on the page for the university students, which would be 2B. But you have the schedule here somewhere. Does it say? Yeah. Challenges will be released on October the 1st. Oh, it doesn't have the dates. It doesn't have the dates? Oh, okay, my bad. So,
and there's something else in this page, because they say that the tools will be on, and then we can find them after 1 day. For example, they say 1 September, it's on like 2 September.
So the training materials all have been already released. We even released the ones for the next week, so you already can start working with those. But so the deadline, the 4th semester, the 4th challenge or exam will be due on September the 22nd, and that gives us a little bit more than a week to make the final selections. And so we have had a discussion with the professors about that, and there are some students who do extremely well so far. So they got like a perfect 100 or 95 on each of the exams so far. They already submitted the third exam, and we looked at those, and so already got a good grade. So we probably will start accepting some students after 3 tests. Like if they did really well on every of the 3 tests, chances are they will do well on the 4th test. For the rest of you, those who are a little bit weaker, we'll probably send you the final acceptance letters right after week 4 exam, so sometime on Tuesday, a week from now. And then, yeah, so then we'll have a little break of about a week while we're finalizing everything, making sure all the registrations are in order and stuff like that. And so the teams, you will receive the team assignment on October the 7th, which will be Monday, probably towards the end of the day. So the way we do it is on Monday morning, we download all of the final data, make sure that we have everything clean, we know who is where, and then everybody who's done by that time will be placed on teams. So we'll start forming teams probably around like 11 a.m. my time. And I think Jamaica is in my time zone. It's 11 a.m. in my time zone. It's probably 11 in Jamaica, right? Or is it already 12 noon? Well, anyway, so for you, it will be around the noon time that we start forming the teams. And then it takes about 4 or 5 hours to make sure, you know, every team is properly matched by age, by experience, different countries. And then obviously it takes time to send out those emails. So towards the end of my day, so for some of you who are in Asia or Europe, it will be late evening for you guys, or maybe even the morning of the next day if you're like in Singapore or Australia. Those of you in the United States, in Latin America, Canada, for you it will be sometimes in the afternoon. And yeah, you will receive the names of your team members. And then obviously as soon as you get them, send an email to all team members saying, hey, my name is Nada, I'm from Jamaica. Nice.
Morocco.
Yeah, and go from there.
Okay, I want to tell you just something. When we received like the reminder for the weekly exam, the third one, they were writing that the deadline was Sunday, the 16th September.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a confusion there. Yeah. So and the reason for that. Yeah. So and I knew about that, so I noticed it like an hour later, and I didn't know if I want to send another one. But let me tell you this, out of several thousand students who got that email, like 20% felt obliged to tell me about that. So I got like 200 emails saying, so is it Monday or is it the 17th or whatever the dates were? But yeah, so it's, as always, all the deadlines are Sunday. So, and the reason I got the dates wrong, because on some calendars, Sunday is the first day of the week in the United States, and on others, it's Monday. I just simply got confused, and I put the Monday date, but Sunday as a day. So Sunday is the deadline. So, although again, I'll let you on a secret. We always download the data on Monday of the next day. So some students are a little late, and because of the time zone differences, we kind of allow that. So if you submit your work a little bit late, it's not a huge problem. So although we do look at the timestamp, and if it happened just once, it's not a problem. But if you consistently miss the deadline, it's a little problem. But yeah, so Sunday midnight is the deadline, New York time zone, and we will not be downloading the data until like next morning. So you have a few extra hours if you need to.
Okay, thank you.
Right? Yeah, no problem. Natalia, Jomana, you guys have questions? Please go ahead.
What is expected from the students to get invited to the symposium? Like, what are the main expectations?
Well, as I said, if you are a member of the winning team, you're automatically invited, but everybody else will look at every performance record we have. So we have a total of 117, I believe, performance indicators that we track. So we'll look at your exam grades, then we'll look at your peer evaluations every week, then we'll look at the quality of your report that your team wrote, then we'll look at timeliness every week, where you're submitting the work on time. So things like that. So we have all kinds of different, you will see once you start getting your performance reviews every week, there will be several numbers that you will see, like your peer evaluations from different, peer team members and different columns. And so again, it's a little bit difficult to kind of say who's the best, because, depending on what you pay attention to. Again, let me share with you one more time if you guys want to see it. It's not an easy task. And maybe I shouldn't even be getting into all of that because, as I said, let me open this file here. As I said, it's not an exact science. It's not something that you can just say, you know, he is the best or she is the best and everybody else is not the best. Like, for example, I'm not sure if you can see my screen here. So here we have, you know, records for the students from the last semester. So we had a total indirect track, we had like 4,000 students, I guess. So yeah, something like that. But so, for example, let's take a few students here. Let's take this student here, Mara, right? So good performance on the exam, 80%, everything. So, and that's a university student, so she's from Oman. And then you start looking at some numbers here, and as you can see, you know, like some are very good, some are a little bit lower, some are fine, but she doesn't have anything in red, meaning that she didn't miss a single assignment. You know, like all seems pretty good here. And so, but at the same time, it's not always possible to just say that, for example, Mara was better than Maria. I mean, they all did pretty well, and so, you know, it becomes sort of a difficult, you know, selection thing here. And so what we do is we kind of sort you on every of those dimensions and look how you compare to the rest. And as I said, usually we sort of get a composite score and try to go, as I said, with about top 10 to top 20% on average. And so the biggest attention is paid, as I said, to peer evaluations, how well you performed in the eyes of your team members, but also the quality of your work. It's not even, you know, how extremely well you were. We also look at how many things you missed. Like, for example, if you didn't complete the weekly progress survey a few weeks in a row, that's a big red flag, and so usually those students don't get accepted. If we see plagiarism in your report, again, that's a big red flag. Usually you don't get invited, so things like that. But I wouldn't worry too much about the specific mathematics because it's not precise, exact science. So just try to do your best, make sure that your team is happy with you. You know, don't miss any deadlines. And usually, as I said, as long as you try hard enough, you will be invited. So again, we cannot invite everyone just because we have a limited number of seats. But as long as you do well, you have a very, very good chance of being invited.
Thank you, Dr.
Natalia, you had a question?
Yes, I wanted to ask what happens.
What countries are you from? Jimena, where are you from? Jimena's picture froze. Natalia, where are you from?
I'm from Egypt.
Egypt, okay, very nice. Natalia, where are you from?
I'm from North Macedonia.
Very nice, North Macedonia. Yeah, so what's your question?
I wanted to ask what happens if we couldn't attend in one of our week webinars.
That is not a problem, and we talked about it last time. Obviously, we would like to meet you all, and we would like you to attend, and it's great that I now met you, so I remember your face, I remember your question. We will have more of those webinars, obviously, as the time comes on, so we will be inviting professors as guest speakers every time, starting then once October comes along and we have the practical phase. So, and it's always good to attend. You know, as I said, the professors will remember you, you will get some interesting information. But at the same time, we understand that it's not always possible for you to attend every webinar. Sometimes it's a time difference, like you're in Macedonia, so I assume it's what, like 5 p.m. in your time zone now, or 6 p.m. And so obviously maybe you have 4, okay. Maybe you have better things to do on a Saturday evening. Some of the webinars, meetings with the companies can be in the middle of the week. In fact, usually they are in the middle of the week. And so again, maybe you are in school, at work, you know, doing homework, who knows what. So we totally understand that it's impossible for everybody to attend these meetings. If you're in Hawaii, for example, it's still like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. So obviously, you know, we cannot expect people to wake up that early. If people are in Australia or New Zealand, for them, that's like midnight now. Again, we cannot expect them to stay up that long. So participation in the webinars is not something that is strictly required. It's helpful, but it's okay if you miss some. So there is no penalty. Although, again, when the time will come to select, you know, the best students, we will pay attention to that as well. So if the person attended most of the webinars, that's a very good sign. At the very least, it tells us that the person is, you know, interested enough, motivated enough, and maybe even disciplined enough not to forget. So, but yeah, no penalty if you don't attend, but very good if you do attend. All right. Okay, so we're pretty much out of time again, and let me just make sure that I didn't miss any important questions in the Q&A, but we need to start the webinar with the coaches. So, So somebody is asking if you can get the correct answers on the exam to see where you went wrong. No, and the reason for that is when you have 1,000 people and there are so many questions, it just will be too much work to distribute that information either on one-by-one basis or set it up so that it goes automatically to everybody. It's just too hard, so we don't do that. And second, more and more questions, as you see now, are open-ended, where you type information. And those, again, are not really, right and wrong. So it's not just simple to say this one was right and this was wrong. So all of those questions are read by several evaluators. So we have some coaches and some professors who are helping us here. And again, it would be just too much work to provide detailed feedback on every submission. And so usually we don't do that. So just because, as I said, it would be like we just don't have the resources to do it. To provide feedback to every student and explain where they went wrong, it would require to hire probably several people, which we don't want to spend money on. So I think it would have been helpful, but it just something would be too hard to do with our resources. Seneca Epps is asking, only older kids would be invited. No, Seneca, no. We usually tend to go with older kids, but no, we had kids as young as 9 and 10 in Italy. Somehow in Canada, it turned out to be that most of the participants this time were 15 and 16, and I think there was one 17. But it just happened to be so. They just, were pre-selected, and we invited more, and I think we even invited a few younger ones, like 9 and 10-year-olds, but they just were not able to come because, for the younger kids like that, they have to come with parents, and it becomes even more complicated for not every family can do that. But no, don't worry. So the age will not be a factor, for exclusion. So we usually go, invite everybody who is worthy of an invitation. It's probably, kind of we're leaning a little bit towards the older ones just because it's going to be more useful for them. But if you do a good job and you are definitely on the, on the track to be one of the best students, you will have your chance as well. So no worries. All right, so and I think we are pretty much done with all the questions. So then, yep, I guess I'll see you next week if you have more questions, and let me go to the next webinar. And yeah, so one more week to go, and we will be ready to select and decide who's going to be on the teams and who's not. Good luck to all of you, and yep, see you next week.